This is Uprising. I'm Sonali Kohatkar. You can now watch Uprising on Free Speech TV, which airs on Dish Network Channel 9415, DirecTV Channel 348, and on hundreds of part-time cable affiliates and on Roku. We open our show today with an excerpt from a scintillating presentation by the acclaimed public intellectual Dr. Cornel West. He's the class of 1943 university professor at Princeton University and graduated magna cum laude from Harvard in 3 years. He obtained his MA and PhD in philosophy at Princeton and has taught at a Union Theological Seminary, Yale, Harvard, and the University of Paris. Dr. Cornel West has written 19 books, edited 13 books. He's best known for his classic Race Matters, Democracy Matters, and his new memoir, Brother West, Living and Loving Out Loud. Up until recently, he was a weekly guest with Tavis Smiley on Smiley and West, the national public radio program that was heard on KPFK Pacifica as well as on NPR stations. His latest book includes Black Prophetic Fire and The Radical King, a book of curated selections from speeches by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that illustrate, according to Dr. West, quote, a democratic socialist who sided with poor and working people in the class struggle taking place in capitalist societies. On January 31st, 2015, KPFA Pacifica Radio in Berkeley hosted Dr. Cornel West for a sold-out event, and today we present to you a lengthy excerpt from that address.
I come from a tradition that says that the Spirit will not descend without song and without sound. And when I came in here and listened to the young folk bringing alive not just the legacy, not just the talent, but the genius of the Louis Armstrongs and Duke Ellingtons and Count Basies and Mary Lou Williams and Sarah Vaughan's and Billie Holidays, on into the Curtis Mayfields and the Donny Hathaways and the Aretha Franklins and the Sheila and Wanda Hutchison of the Emotions, of Scotty of the Whispers, Ted Mills of Blue Magic, Russell Tompkins Jr. of the Stylistics. That's the same tradition, y'all. That's the same tradition. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. And it is a tradition not primarily of entertainers. It is a tradition of love warriors who mastered technique and craft and tried to touch souls in such a way that even though you've been terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized for 400 years, you can still stand with your back straight, with a smile on your face, and with style, and connect with other folk, communicate with other folk. So you may come from a hated people, but you're going to teach the world something about love. That's what we heard here. That's what we heard here. So I'm not the only brother smiling, but it put a smile on Sly Stone's face wherever he is. Because that's the same tradition. And of course it affects each and every one of us, no matter what color, no matter what culture, civilization, sexual orientation, or national identity. It is profoundly a human affair. Oh, yes, it is. You know, our English word humando comes from the Latin humando, is the source of the English humanity. And humando means what? Burying, that we're on the way to death. When you hear this music, it comes from a black people who, at our best, have always been wrestling with forms of death. The social death of U.S. white supremacist slavery, the civic death of American Jim and Jane Crow American terrorism, the psychic death of being taught that you are less moral, less beautiful, and less intelligent, less human, and the spiritual death that you have no status whatsoever on the human scale, and therefore the only thing for you to do is to cave in, give up, sell out. In the black musical tradition, which for me is the greatest tradition of modern times at that deep philosophical level, Because it says even if we're on intimate terms of terror, intimate terms of trauma, intimate terms with stigma, the response is not to terrorize others. The response is not to stigmatize others. The response is not to traumatize others. It is to allow a love to flow. And we know justice is what love looks like in public, just like tenderness is what love feels like in private. And you can't talk about the black freedom struggle. You certainly can't talk about Martin Luther King Jr. unless you begin with a spiritual and existential dimension that says, yes, we're going to fight for freedom. Yes, we're going to serve the poor. Yes, we're going to sacrifice for justice. But we're also going to have a militant tenderness.